I never imagined that a simple act of kindness could change my heart forever. I will never forget the day everything fell apart. The air was thick with tension. Fear gripped my chest, squeezing tighter with each passing moment. I stood in the crowded cafe, coffee cup trembling in my hands, heart racing. Fragments of conversations washed over me like crashing waves. Laughter and joy surrounded me, but I felt so alone. My mind was a whirlwind. You see, I was waiting for the news that would alter my life in ways I could never predict. My mother lay in that sterile hospital room, fragile and still, fighting a battle that felt insurmountable. The machines beeped ominously, each sound a harsh reminder of the breaths she struggled to take. I had always been the strong one, the pillar for my family. My younger sister, Emily, leaned against the wall, eyes red and puffy from crying. Her fingers played nervously with the hem of her sweater. I wanted to comfort her, but my own heart felt like it was drowning in a sea of uncertainty. Just then, an elderly man entered the cafe. His presence felt instantly. His clothes were worn, frayed at the edges. He walked slowly, determination burning in his eyes. I couldn't help but watch him as he moved between tables, a small smile etched on his face. My heart ached at the sight of such resilience. He approached a table where a young couple sat, engrossed in their conversation. They looked up, surprised when he stopped before them. With a warmth that filled the air, he handed them a bouquet of wildflowers, freshly picked, vibrant, and alive. It was a simple gesture, but something shifted in the air. The couple smiled, their surprise melting into gratitude. Suddenly, the cafe felt less suffocating. The elderly man continued his journey, weaving kindness like a thread through the hearts of those around him. As he moved from table to table, sharing stories and laughter, my heart tumbled into an unexpected rhythm. But then I noticed something unusual. The flowers he handed out weren't just beautiful. They glistened strangely, as if each petal held a secret. A soft glow flickered in the light, captivating everyone's gaze. I blinked, confusion rising within me. My chest tightened again, this time not just with fear, but a creeping curiosity. What could they mean? And just as the man wrapped up his journey, he locked eyes with me. A shiver ran down my spine. His gaze was intense, piercing through my pretense. For a brief moment, it felt like he saw every crack in my heart. I wanted to scream out my fears, my worries, to explain the weight I carried. Instead, he simply smiled, and in that moment, something shifted again. Out of nowhere, a flash of light erupted from the bouquet he carried. Gasps filled the cafe, the air electrified with disbelief. Laughter turned to astonishment. What was happening? I felt my pulse quicken. There was a whisper of magic in the air. What did that light mean? I could feel something captivating pulling me closer. A simple act of kindness, it had stirred something deep inside, igniting hope where despair had lingered. But I was still lost in my own storm. My mother was still fighting. Each second felt like an eternity. Yet I yearned to know more about that man and the secrets those flowers held. I took a step forward, my heart racing. Hey, before we continue with this amazing story, I need to give you an important heads up. Many subscribers have reported that YouTube unsubscribed them without warning. Take a quick second to check the red button below to make sure you're still subscribed to the channel. I'd hate for you to miss any of the exclusive content coming soon. And while you're there, smash that like button, it really helps me out with the algorithm. Oh, and tell me in the comments, which city are you watching from? I love getting to know every amazing person who's part of this community. Your participation makes all the difference. Let's connect. The cafe door swung open with a soft chime, and the elderly man turned to me with a knowing smile that felt familiar, as though we shared a secret only we understood. I could hardly breathe. The questions fumbled in my throat like whispered ghosts. He was a stranger, yet his essence felt intertwined with the very fabric of my thoughts and fears. Before I could muster the courage to speak, he approached me, a steady hand reaching out, offering one of those glowing bouquets. The colors shimmered, vibrant hues swirling like a quiet spell. Take it, dear child. Let it remind you that beauty still exists, even in moments of despair. With hesitant fingers, I accepted the bouquet. The moment I touched it, warmth radiated through me, melting the cold dread that had taken residence in my chest. The flowers felt alive, their energy sparking a flicker of hope. Yet, beneath that warmth, A gnawing hesitation hung in the air like a storm on the horizon. Thank you, but my voice cracked as I dared to question his intent. What do these flowers mean? Why do they glow? He leaned closer, his breath warm against my face. They embody the strength you possess, hidden in grief. They remind you that the season of struggle will give way to blooming beginnings. His words weren't just guidance, but a balm for my aching heart. Behind him, I saw Emily watching with wide, curious eyes. The breath I held felt heavy in my lungs as I thought of the burden on our shoulders. It's all so overwhelming. I'm scared for Mom and for us. The man nodded, understanding etched into his features. Fear can be a thief, my dear. It steals your capacity to feel joy, love, and possibility. But remember, kindness exists right alongside it. Seek it out, and you will find your way. Just as an inexplicable sense of calm washed over me, the cafe door creaked, and a doctor strode in, expression grave. The air shifted again, the warmth of the moment swept away by an impending storm. I dropped my gaze from the elderly man, heart plummeting as the unfathomable weight of reality crashed into me once more. I could see the doctor searching for someone. My breath hitched as he approached our table. Is there a family member for a patient in room 302? His voice carried that heavy tone, laden with the unspoken dread we had all feared. Time stood still as I exchanged frantic glances with Emily before fear consumed us. A chill clawed at my spine as I shook my head. No, we don't have any updates yet. He hesitated, and my heart sank. It's urgent that you accompany me. Your mother's condition has worsened. The world around me blurred. Faces became indistinct as I registered the weight of his words. My heart raced, echoing in my ears. I felt the bouquet slip from my fingers, petals scattering across the cafe floor, a vivid reminder of everything beautiful that was at stake. Without thinking, I grabbed Emily's hand. We followed the doctor, our minds a jumble of fear and heartache. Every step felt like walking on broken glass, each step echoing the fragility of our situation. Suddenly, the elderly man's voice rang in my mind, a distant echo. Seek kindness in the storm. But in that moment, it felt impossible. As we reached the hospital wing, I hesitated at the doorway of my mother's room. The walls felt like they were closing in, each breath a battle. I squeezed Emily's hand tighter and pushed through the door, the beeping machines drowning out my thoughts. My mother lay there, paler than the last time I saw her, eyes closed, a serene expression masking the storm within. I moved closer, desperate for any sign of her strength. Mom, I whispered, a prayer on my lips. Suddenly, Emily gasped, drawing my attention. On the small table beside my mother's bed lay one of the glowing flowers from the bouquet, the last of its kind, pulsating gently as if in sync with my mother's heartbeat. How I stammered, confusion washing over me. Had the elderly man somehow known? Was this truly a sign of hope, or another cruel twist of fate? My heart raced with questions, mirroring the rhythm of the humming light in the room. Just as I reached for the blossom, an unexpected shout echoed down the corridor, shattering the fragile moment. Where is she? I need to see her now. The voice was frantic, familiar, and ice rushed through my veins as my gaze shot toward the door. The figure that entered was a ghost I never thought I'd see again, my estranged father, back from a life I thought had released him from our nightmares. With the challenges ahead blurring the boundaries of past and present, I felt the unmistakable weight of everything unraveling. I stood frozen, holding the glowing flower within my trembling hands. A new chaos unfolded around me. The storm was beginning, and I could not tell who would weather it and who might be lost in its wake. The world inside my mother's room seemed to shift like a kaleidoscope, blurring the lines between reality and memory as the figure of my father advanced through the doorway. His presence ignited 1,000 dormant emotions within me: anger, betrayal, confusion. The last time I had seen him, it had felt like saying goodbye to the last shred of innocence. Dad. My voice was a whisper, barely managing to pierce through the chaos swirling around us. I couldn't believe he was here. After all those years of silence, the man who had walked away from us was suddenly clawing his way back into our lives. He looked different, older, wearier, as if the burdens he carried were far heavier than those etched in the lines of his face. But his eyes, those familiar pools of uncertainty and regret, locked onto mine. searching for something that felt impossibly lost. "Please, I need to see her," he implored. There was desperation woven through his tone that almost softened my heart. But the memories stalled me. The broken promises, the sleepless nights of wondering if he even cared weighing them against the fragile state of our family, seemed insurmountable. Emily's grip tightened around mine, her wide eyes darting between us. She was the embodiment of our shared pain, reminding us both of what was at stake. "You can't just show up and expect everything to be okay," she blurted, voice quaking but resolute. "Is it ever okay?" He shot back, anguish cutting through his words. "I know I made mistakes, but I'm here now. I want to make it right." I could hardly breathe amidst the conflicting emotions flooding my senses. The glowing flower pulsed in my grasp, its rhythm echoing the heartbeat I longed to protect. Yet, the chaos my father introduced threw me deeper into a tumultuous sea of uncharted emotions. Before I could retort, the door swung open again. A nurse stepped in, her urgency palpable, as if she held the weight of our world on her shoulders. She immediately turned her focus to my mother, checking the machines, her brow furrowing. "We need to stabilize her. You all must step out for now." "No," I protested. "I can't leave her side." But Emily gently tugged my arm, pulling me away as the nurse resumed her work. I felt the bitter tang of helplessness clawing at my insides. I glanced back at my mother, wishing for the warmth of her hand, the comfort of her voice to ease the storm raging in my heart. Outside the room, I leaned against the cold wall, breath hitching as I fought the wave of tears threatening to break through my defenses. Emily was soon beside me, her eyes fierce yet puzzled. "What is he doing here? After all this time, he just shows up?" "I don't know," I admitted, voice breaking. "It doesn't make sense." Suddenly, a familiar face broke through the haze. A family friend, Olivia, stepped into view with her reassuring smile. "Hey, both of you. I came just in time for some reunion," she said, glancing between the three of us. "Things are chaotic, aren't they? But it doesn't feel fair," I insisted. "Why now? Why him? Everything feels unsettled." "Honey, kindness doesn't follow a schedule," Olivia said softly. "Sometimes it arrives just when you need it most. Maybe he's here for a reason." Those words anchored me slightly, like a lifeline in the swell of uncertainty. I squeezed Emily's hand, finding reassurance in her steadfastness. "Maybe he wants to help," I murmured, feeling the flickers of hope reigniting. "But can we trust him?" Before she could answer, a distant noise echoed from the ward. A commotion was rising, and the hospital staff's nervous energy seeped through the walls. Panic surged anew as I rushed toward the sound. My heart raced, pounding with the fear that something had gone terribly wrong. "Mom," I shouted, finding myself outside her room again. The air was thick with urgency as nurses darted back and forth. A chilling thought alighted in my mind. Was I about to lose her when I might have a chance to reconnect? As I watched them work fervently, my father joined beside me. An unusual tandem formed in that moment of despair. "I need to do something. I should have never turned away," he said, voice trembling but insistent. "Why did you come back now?" I couldn't mask the accusation. "Because I regret leaving you both. I never wanted to lose you. I'm still your father, and I want my chance to at least be there now," he replied, raw vulnerability spilling into the air between us. But before I could respond, a sudden voice broke through the clamor. It was the elderly man from the cafe, standing at the threshold of the room, his eyes filled with an understanding that unnerved me. "You are both searching for light in the dark. But sometimes, amidst our struggles, we meet people who reflect our truest fears. You must decide if they are worth trusting once more." Could he have seen, somehow, the chaos that had spilled into my life even before it unfolded? My heart raced again, torn between the ache of past wounds and the fragile thread of hope weaving itself anew. A storm was certainly brewing, and no one could predict who it would consume. The noise faded into a painful echo, leaving only the hammering of my heart against my ribcage. I turned to the elderly man, his weathered face illuminated by a genuine kindness that seemed out of place in the sterile hospital corridor. "What do you mean?" I asked, my voice trembling. He stepped closer, the slightest hint of a sigh escaping his lips. "In the darkest moments, we often find ourselves grappling with those we fear the most. It's a chance, you see, to either revisit the pain or to challenge it. Choose wisely." His words swirled around me like fog, both inspiring and terrifying. I swung my gaze back to my father, who was watching me with eyes that mirrored my own turmoil. There was so much left unsaid between us. Years of distance shrunk into a single moment fraught with tension and unspoken hope. "Your mother needs you," my father urged, desperation thick in his voice. "I want to be there for her. For you." "Why?" I shot back, the intensity of my feelings flaring. "Why should I believe you now?" "Because I know the hurt I caused. Seeing your mother like this brought all of it back. I can't ignore it anymore," he confessed, his honesty unsettling yet somehow familiar. "I was weak before, but I want to be better." I closed my eyes, cauldron of emotions spilling over. How could I stand here, on the precipice of reconnection, and deny him? Yet every fiber of my being screamed caution. "You don't get to just walk back in and expect forgiveness," I replied, my words sharp against the vulnerability of the moment. Emily stepped forward, her fierce gaze settling on me. "What are we really afraid of? Losing her? Or letting him back into our lives? Maybe we should give him a chance, not for him, but for us." The words were a revelation, and I felt the flicker of possibility ignite within me. Perhaps she was right. Perhaps this was an opportunity not just to heal the wounds inflicted on us, but to reshape our understanding of family and trust. "Okay, I'll give you one chance," I said to him, the weight of the promise settling heavily on my heart. "But you need to prove to me that you're serious. It might take time, but I won't let you in unless I see you fighting for it." My father nodded, his expression a mixture of relief and determination. "Thank you. I'll show you both." "I will," he said, his voice steady now but laced with uncertainty. Just as I was beginning to believe I could allow a sliver of hope to exist, the commotion from the room intensified. A sudden alarm blared, slicing through the air, filling us with dread. The nurses moved with frantic purpose. Calls for a doctor echoed and crashed against the walls, and my heart plummeted as I resumed my frantic rush to my mother's room, every step feeling like it took an eternity. Just as I reached the doorway, a doctor stepped out, his expression grim. "Family of Marissa Taylor?" The way he spoke, the way the words fell from his lips, chilled me to my core. I felt the ground slip beneath me, everything around me blurring as a tremor of fear coursed through my veins. "I am her child," I stammered, desperate for answers. Behind me, Emily and my father cautiously stepped forward, their eyes filled with apprehension. The doctor hesitated, and in that agonizing pause, the weight of 1,000 worst-case scenarios hung in the air. Finally, he continued, "We're doing everything we can, but we need to prepare you for the possibility that the next few hours are critical." "No," I whispered, the denial spilling from my lips like a desperate incantation. The pain of uncertainty sunk its claws into me so deeply that I could barely breathe. I looked to my father, who stood frozen, his own face a mask of fear and guilt. "This can't be happening." "Not now," I muttered, my world constricting around me. But as the doctor's words sunk in, I appreciated the irony. The man who had walked away from us was now here at the very moment I most needed support. I couldn't decide if his presence was a blessing or a curse. With that thought swirling in my mind, the weight of impending loss loomed like a shadow over our fragile reunion. Emily reached for my hand, squeezing it tightly while my father stood beside us, a new kind of uncertainty binding us together. Maybe we were preparing to lose a part of ourselves, my mother, our family, or perhaps even the chance at forgiveness. "Whatever happens, we face this together," Emily whispered, her voice steadying me like a bomb against the impending storm. The doctor took a step back, and I knew with harrowing clarity that each passing moment only deepened our struggle, intertwining joy and despair. I clung to the warmth of Emily's hand, holding fast against the world turning chaotic once again. As I stood on the precipice of what might be the end, I felt a chilling tug within me, a longing not just for my mother to pull through, but to have a family come together amidst the wreckage left behind. Yet the moment swirled ominously, brushing against the corners of my heart, warning me that the journey ahead was far from over. The sterile hospital lights buzzed like angry bees, casting a clinical shadow over what felt like a waking nightmare. The doctor's somber face haunted me, his words echoing in my mind as I turned back towards the door. I felt as though I were on the precipice of a chasm, torn between hope for my mother's survival and the overwhelming dread of impending loss. "Where's Mom?" The question slipped from my lips, a raw instinct woven with desperation. I clung to the idea that somehow she could conquer this, just as she had conquered every hill she'd ever faced. But in the darkness of this corridor, hope felt like a distant whisper. "Let us wait for more information," Emily said, her voice like a lighthouse in a storm. I could see the strength I'd admired in her shining through the worry etched on her face. She shifted closer, grounding me with the warmth of her presence. No one should have to bear a burden of heartache alone. And in that moment, her hand felt like an anchored my father, a figure I had almost forgotten how to read, stood rigid beside us, a storm of questions swirling in his blue eyes. "I can't," he stumbled, the words breaking as he struggled to voice his fear. "I can't lose her again. Not now, not after everything." I felt a flicker of something. Was it empathy? A hint of understanding? I wouldn't let myself go there just yet. The hospital hummed around us, nurses scurrying with purpose, alarms beeping in a melodic rhythm that felt all too cruel against the gravity of our reality. I wanted to shout out, to demand the universe to cease its cruelty, but instead, I found myself squeezing Emily's hand tighter, as if our bond could weave a protective barrier against the impending heartache. Moments became hours, turned by the ticking clock that seemed to mock us with its relentless pace. The waiting room filled with the anxious whispers of others, their lives just as fragile as ours. I caught snippets of conversations, stories of lives altered, hopes dashed. A soft sob broke through the hushed tones, and I turned to see a woman, young yet aged by sorrow, her knuckles white as she clutched her husband's arm. "Please, don't leave me," she whispered, eyes brimming with tears. A wave of sadness surged through me. It was a reminder that suffering was universal, yet each plight was a solitary journey. That I caught my father watching her, the line of his jaw tight, a shadow of shame painted across his features. Perhaps he too was grappling with old memories of heartache, of promises broken too many times, and I saw something flicker within him, a glimpse of a man who wanted to change, tightrope walking the line between past and present. "Do you think she'll be okay?" My voice was barely a whisper, lost amidst the hospital chaos. The question hung heavy between us, exposing a vulnerability I had tried to keep at bay. "I don't know," my father replied, his voice cracking, echoing my own uncertainty. "But I need you to know I'm here." His admission was surprising, but it stirred a flurry of emotions. Was this the moment where walls began to crumble? That thought danced on the edge of my consciousness, yet the heaviness of it felt insurmountable, like climbing a mountain laden with stones. Before the moment could settle, a figure appeared at the entrance to the waiting area. Dr. Khan, my mother's physician, moved with a calm authority that cut through the tension. The air grew still as the doctor cleared his throat, eyes searching our faces with an intensity that gripped the air between us. "Marissa is stable for now," he began, words spilling from his lips like a balm to my frayed spirit. "But she is still in critical condition. We're monitoring her closely, but I recommend that you all take turns to see her. It might be good for her to hear your voices." The depth of relief clashed with the uncertainty that remained, and I fought against emotions threatening to overwhelm me. "Can we go in?" My voice came out sharper than I intended. "Yes, but just for a few minutes," he replied. His demeanor softened, a kindness threaded into his professional facade. "Talk to her. Like she can hear you. It's important." The prospect of seeing my mother, of potentially reconnecting with the very essence of who she was, filled me with a burgeoning sense of hope, even amidst the shadows of doubt. But I feared the fragility of her state and the looming unknown of her fate. "We'll go," I urged, pulling Emily with me, heart racing towards that door. This moment felt significant, a fragile bridge spanning the chasm of despair and potential reconciliation. I hesitated at the threshold, the soft beeping of machines mixing with the hushed tones of nurses. How would I find the right words? Thousands of emotions grappled within me, a cacophony of love, fear, forgiveness, and longing swirling as I stepped inside. The sight of her frail body was a sobering reminder of how quickly life could change. Tubes and monitors surrounded her, pale skin twisting the image of the vibrant woman she had once been. But even in the depths of this battle, a small part of me held hope. Perhaps this was a chance to rewrite our story. "Mom," I whispered, feeling tears brimming, sliding down my cheeks uninvited. It's me. For a fleeting moment, I imagined her stirring, a spark igniting within her. But then the moment slipped away, swallowed by the relentless passage of time. Suddenly, a hushed voice echoed from the hallway, stark and unsettling. I didn't mean to. It's too late now. My heart sank, the easy flicker of hope extinguished by the weight of what those words could mean. I clenched my fists, desperate to know who was speaking, what words could send ripples of turmoil through the hospital halls and bring the impending heartache teetering on the verge of eruption. As the echo of the voice faded, a deep sense of dread settled in the pit of my stomach. Whatever revelation was looming, it was a storm that would shatter the fragile serenity we had just begun to rebuild. The air turned heavy, the future steeped once more in uncertainty, and I felt my heart brace for an even greater collision. The fluorescent lights of the hospital room cast an unforgiving glare on everything they touched. My mother lay there, stripped of the vibrancy that once defined her, while echoes of unfamiliar voices reverberated in my mind. I couldn't shake the chill that had settled deep within me, especially after hearing those haunting words that seemed to bundle up the very essence of my fears. Please, I whispered to myself, feeling the weight of the world on my chest. I needed to be strong, to connect with her even if it felt like reaching out into the void. My thoughts ricocheted between memory and present disbelief. How could this be happening? Mom, it's me. I'm here, I said, my voice soft yet trembling, as if I were speaking into a fragile glass shell. I took a step closer, producing a small sunflower from my pocket, a simple gesture, yet filled with the weight of my intent. It symbolized more than just a flower. It was a reminder of the warmth and light she had always brought into my life. There was no immediate reaction, and the stillness in the air felt stifling. I arranged the sunflower on the bedside table, my fingers brushing against her arm as I did. The contact sent a jolt of warmth through me, reigniting fragments of hope. You taught me to find beauty even in difficult times, I continued, the words flowing as I continued recounting memories, family vacations, laughter during simple dinners, and her relentless encouragement. Please fight for us, for all the new memories we can still create. A rush of footsteps disturbed my solitary moment with her, and I turned to see Emily peeking through the doorway, uncertainty etched across her face. But then she caught my eye and ventured inside, her presence a comforting balm. How is she? She asked, keeping her voice low, as if the very act of speaking could disturb the fragile atmosphere. I don't know, I replied, emotion pouring from me, a mixture of sorrow and frustration. She doesn't feel as far away as I thought, yet my voice trailed off. The reality of possible loss felt heavier than the memories surrounding us. Emily approached cautiously, her gaze unwavering on my mother. You shouldn't feel alone in this, she said quietly. Your mom is still with you, still fighting. And I'm here, too. With that, she took my hand, her touch a lifeline pulling me from the depths of despair. It was comforting. But just as I found solace in her words, the alarm from the machines blared unexpectedly. An urgency rushed through the room. Nurses stumbled in, faces marked with focus as they surrounded my mother's bed. My heart raced as fear clawed at my insides. I grabbed Emily's hand tighter, our knuckles white against the emotional hurricane stirring inside us. Wait here, one of the nurses instructed, her hasty movements disorienting me. I want to be with her, I protested, but my voice felt insignificant against the chaos that enveloped the room. I felt Emily's grip tighten around mine, but even that was now a flicker of strength against the tide of uncertainty. We were pushed aside as confusion swirled through the air. I caught snippets of frantic talk. Her vitals are dropping. Get the crash cart. The very words seemed to steal the light from the room, suffocating the atmosphere as I struggled to process their meaning. My mother, my shield, my guide, she needed help, and I felt helpless. As if responding to my plea, another voice echoed from the hallway, shattering my spiraling thoughts. Is this where she is? Marissa? I need to see her. I turned, and a familiar face emerged, a stranger yet reeking with recognition. It was Claire, a childhood friend of my mother's. Her eyes were wide, full of urgency and grief, two emotions mirroring my own turmoil. Claire? I called, astonishment flooding over the chaos. You knew she was here? I came as soon as I heard. I didn't know if it was true. Her voice broke just as my heart did. It was an unexpected reminder of the love network my mother had built, lives intricately interwoven throughout the years, and yet I was unprepared for how profoundly Claire's presence would impact me. The nurse shot her a look of caution, but Claire pressed through the barrier. I can't just stand back. Marissa, I'll do anything. Before I could respond, another alarm rang. I felt the world tilt beneath me as I clutched the sunflower, trying to ground myself. Claire reached out, grasping my arm tightly. It'll all be okay. They're professionals. But her voice tried to reassure us both. And in that moment, I realized that perhaps hope lived in the bonds we forged, among the whispers shared and the hands held tightly against adversity. The crushing uncertainty tore at the frayed edges of my resolve. But as I looked at Emily, and then at Claire, I felt an unshakable urge to unite us, to draw strength from one another in this dark hour. If we all fought together, could we weave a thread of light in this unfathomable darkness? But then I saw something shift in Claire's eyes, a flicker of knowledge that hadn't been there moments before, casting a new shadow across my heart. What do you know? I pressed, feeling the tremor in my voice betray the urgency of the moment. What has happened? Claire hesitated, and in that beat, I understood a revelation was on the cusp of breaking the surface, poised to shake the very foundation of everything I believed in. I could feel it intensifying, a storm gathering above our heads, and the air around us thickened, pregnant with unspoken truths that in that split second, everything began to hang in the balance, teetering on a razor's edge between hope and despair, waiting for the truth to unravel. How far would the unexpected revelation stretch? Would it shatter or mend our fragile hearts? The fluorescent lights continued their relentless glare, a gavel of harsh reality announcing the turmoil unfolding in that small room. I could feel the tension wrapping itself around us all, choking away the small embers of hope we clung to. Claire's lips parted, and the words I braced myself for hung suspended in the air like the fragile threads of a spider's web, ready to unravel at the slightest breath. Please, you have to tell me, I urged her, the fear in my voice betraying my attempt at composure. What is going on with my mom? Claire swallowed hard, emotion pooling in her eyes, as if swimming in the depths of memories shared with my mother. I saw her just a few months ago. We talked about things. A flicker of hesitation passed before she continued. She was worried about something, but she didn't want to burden you. As she spoke, Emily squeezed my hand tighter, grounding me against the waves of confusion crashing over us. Painful seconds dragged on with nothing but the rhythmic beeping of machines to fill the silence between us. Claire's unsteady breaths echoed like whispers, the urgent thoughts pressing at the corners of my mind, murmuring fears I couldn't shake. What was she worried about? I pressed, my voice barely above a whisper. She mentioned an old friend, someone she hadn't spoken to in years. Claire struggled to compose herself. He was a difficult part of her past. I think it haunted her more than she let on, even to yourself. A cold dread seeped into my bones. All the memories of my mother, the laughter at family dinners, her glowing smile during moments of triumph, each seemed to twist under the newfound weight of this revelation. Why didn't she tell me? I whispered, frustration rising in my chest. Why would she carry that alone? I don't think she wanted you to worry, Claire replied gently, her voice almost a soothing balm against the swelling tempest of emotions within me. You have to understand. Sometimes we convince ourselves that love means shielding others from our complexities rather than sharing them. I wanted to scream, to rage against the unfairness of it all. How could love also mean secrecy? But nothing emerged, my voice caught in my throat, twisted by the gravity of my mother's silence. The uncertainty of her condition paled under the crushing weight of this new information. What does it mean for her now? The beeping of the machines suddenly spiked, causing all three of us to draw in a sharp breath. I turned to see nurses rushing in again, and within the flurry of activity, time elongated, each moment stretching painfully, despair waiting to swallow me whole. Get her stable, a nurse shouted, the urgency rippling through the air like a shockwave. I felt Emily's hand slip away as the chaos in the room spiraled, our ability to fight against despair seeming futile as I stood paralyzed. Their voices faded into the background, a blur of movements and commands. I pressed my back against the cold wall, trying to steady the wild thrum of my heart as desperation clawed at my throat. Amid the storm, I felt Claire step closer, a shield beside me. "We can't give up hope," she urged softly, her eyes locking onto mine, unyielding against the uncertainty surrounding us. "Your mom has always been a fighter." That painful shred of hope sparked in me again, though it flickered in the vast shadow of my fears. What if all of this is too much for her?" I whispered. The question poured out, raw and honest, as though allowing it to surface gave it power. The nurses moved with efficiency, but the air grew thicker, the countdown to an unfathomable outcome looming closer with each moment. Claire regarded me intently, as if searching for the right words, and just as I thought I might implode under the weight of the world collapsing around me, she stepped forward. "You have her fighting spirit in you. Trust it. Draw on it, your mom can feel it." She is still with us. But the next heartbeat echoed with an ominous change. One of the nurses turned, her face pale as she relayed news to the others. I could feel reality, fragmenting, the cracks spidering out and unraveling the narrative of strength and hope I so desperately tried to weave. Claire's grip tightened on my arm. "We have to believe." In a whirlwind of activity, a doctor stepped forward with information that changed everything. "We have a complication," the doctor stated, the gravity of those words suffocating the tentative hope that had been kindled in that instant. The world shifted once more, and all I could do was grasp at whatever shreds of hope remained, gripping them tightly, as if they could shield me from the impact of whatever fate awaited my mother. Then Claire leaned closer, her breath warm against my ear. "Remember the bond-shaped paper airplane your mom made for you? She taught you to believe in flight, in possibilities." Before I could respond, an unexpected sound erupted through the room, a familiar song drifting softly from my mother's old pocket radio, a tune that once echoed through our home and reverberated with love. I remembered it being played at birthdays, holidays, and quiet evenings spent together. Her favorite song, now intertwining itself in the chaos, breaking through the heaviness like a ray of sunlight flooding a darkened room. Just as quickly, the nurse shot a look my way, urgency blending with an undeniable warmth. "She can hear you. Talk to her. Tell her what's in your heart." A wave of realization crashed over me, washing away the hesitation and fear that weighed me down. I stepped forward, the melody wrapping around my heart, an invitation to bridge the chasm between us. "Mom," I cried, my voice breaking through the rising tide of anxiety. "Listen to the song. It's our song. It connects us, and I need you to know how much you mean to me." The words poured out like a desperate lifeline. "You have given me everything. We have so many more moments to share. Please, fight." The moment hung in the air, charged with the power of love and vulnerability. And as the song filled the room, I felt something profound shift, but I could feel Claire's hands tremble on my shoulder. I turned, noticing a new intensity in her eyes, the lingering question hovering. "Marissa, the friend from her past, do you think?" Claire's voice trailed off. The fear that crept back in almost tangible that a sudden realization struck me, an echo of secrets once hidden from my sight, as if the walls were breathing just as my heart raced with possibilities. The tension threaded through the air as dread and hope grappled for dominance, and in that fragile sanctuary pitched between song and silence, I braced myself against the tides of revelation yet to come. Would my mother's past once again reach into our lives, intertwining with our fragile present? I held my breath, waiting for answers that lay just beyond the embrace of darkness, the distant chords of a familiar tune unspooling more than just a memory. Everything was on the brink, new possibilities unfolding, and the edges of my heart vulnerable to the weight of truths waiting to awaken. What would happen next? The moments that followed were shaky, a precarious balancing act where hope and despair danced dangerously close to one another, inviting catastrophe with every breath. I remained tethered to the sound of the song playing from my mother's radio, the tender harmonies intertwining with Claire's unspoken fears, a fragile melody binding our hearts as we waited for a miracle woven from the fabric of life itself. Marissa, Claire finally broke the silence, her voice quaking as though it was a small bird caught in a fierce storm. "If we can find this friend, if he's living nearby." Maybe she hesitated, the thought too large to voice entirely. Yet I sensed the weight in her pause, the hope that flickered in the dark. Maybe he could help? I finished, the words slipping from my lips before I could guard against them. I felt a swell of urgency, not just for the truth, but for the understanding that this friendship, no matter how distant, could provide a bridge back to my mother, a whisper from the past to guide her through the present shadows. But as quickly as that idea took flight, the weight of reality pressed down on us. But what if he doesn't remember? What if he has moved on? I murmured, a panic threading its way through my thoughts. I had only ever known my mother as strong, self-sufficient, completely in control. The mere possibility that this man could resurrect any part of her past felt like tossing a lifeline into raging waters. It could either save her or drag her deeper into despair. Just then, the nurse returned, her youthful face showing traces of empathy beneath the clinical demeanor. I know it feels overwhelming right now, but your mom's response to music can be powerful. Engage her, remind her of the strength she nurtured within you. It could make a difference. I nodded, still caught in a web of possibility and fear. The nurse's words struck a chord. My mom had always cherished the ways we connected through shared experiences. How many times had we hummed along to that very tune while doing mundane tasks? Aloud, "Mom," I called again, the urgency sharpening my tone. "Tell me something, please. What did that friend mean to you? Did he bring you joy? Was it painful?" As if tugged by an unseen thread, a quiet moment of clarity surged in my heart. I stepped closer as the music enveloped me, urging me to dive deeper. "If you can hear me, I want you to know that you are not alone. You are never alone. You have so much to offer to this world still." A flicker of movement watched, stilted and fragile, from the bed. My mother's fingers twitched, almost imperceptibly, and for a moment, I felt as though time had momentarily stood still. I grasped that small thread of hope, willing it to grow into something tangible. Claire stood beside me, her presence a steadying force, though I could see splinters of fear in her eyes as she cautiously ventured, "Maybe I can help with the search? I have some resources I could tap into. Do you think it would matter?" I asked, my throat tight. I want to believe that finding him could spark something, ignite a fire in her spirit to fight. I just don't know where to start. "Let us not underestimate the power of connections," Claire replied reassuringly, her voice calming against my angst. There was something in the way she spoke, a conviction that pushed against the shadows we faced. Sometimes, people from our past can bring forth the strength we forgot we possessed. In that moment, I felt a crack in the dam holding my heart captive, as if Claire's words nudged the edges of my fears, letting a trickle of something akin to hope seep through. "Can we do it? Can we really find him?" I asked, a tremor in my voice radiating vulnerability. Claire's response lingered in the air as a promise. "We will together, whatever it takes. You are not alone in this." As the song transitioned into a tender refrain, the warmth wrapped around me like a blanket, and I felt stirs of gratitude towards Claire and the serendipitous way we had found each other in the chaos of this moment. We were more than just witnesses to suffering. We were each other's lifelines. But beneath that warmth, a cool tendril of dread still snaked its way through my heart, mingling with something deeper questions about what resurfacing memories could unearth. Hours passed slowly, enveloped in a haze of flickering lights and muted conversations, forming a cocoon that allowed very little room for outside noise. I would glance toward the window, watching the daylight dip below the horizon, igniting the sky with shades of orange and pink, a vivid reminder that time was moving, ever so insistently onward. That it was in one of those fleeting moments, when my attention drifted outside, that a sudden commotion caught my ear, voices rising in urgency just outside the room door. I turned just as the door swung open. A man stood there, framed in the doorway, his presence rippling with gravity as though he carried with him the weight of every suppressed memory. "Excuse me," he spoke, his voice rough yet filled with a whisper of apprehension that beckoned me forward. "I'm looking for Marissa Blake's family." My heart thundered against my ribs. Somehow, I knew instantly who he was, even before the heaviness of recognition settled over me like a heavy fog. The realization brought forth a torrent of questions mingling with the deep-rooted fears I had yet to voice. My mother's past, once tightly sealed, had stepped boldly into the light, and now, drawn by curiosity and dread alike, I took a tentative step closer. "Did you know my mom?" I managed to ask, each syllable charged with electricity, anticipation and fear battling within me. As he took a step inside, the walls around me seemed to tremble with unwritten stories and devastating truths. And in that kaleidoscope of emotions, hope, fear, and countless unspoken possibilities, I could only wonder. Was this man the key to unlocking my mother's fight for life? Or would he bring revelations that threatened to unravel everything I knew about her? The moment hung thick with tension, as if the very air was waiting for a spark to ignite it. I studied him, trying to decipher the depth of his presence, the stories buried in his eyes. He seemed to sense my hesitation, a flicker of understanding flashing across his face before he stepped further into the small hospital room. "Yes," he began, his voice steady yet almost faltering under the weight of memory. "I knew your mother. I was a friend from a long time ago." Friend? The word tumbled out of me, caught somewhere between disbelief and an overwhelming curiosity that gnawed at my insides. I was aware of Claire's watchful gaze at my side, providing a steadying presence even as this stranger's arrival wove a new thread into our uncertain tapestry. Yes, we shared moments together, before life took us in different directions. He hesitated, a fleeting shadow passing over his features. I could tell he was grappling with memories that might not be easy to unearth. I've thought of her often, but I couldn't find the words to reach out. It hasn't been easy for many of us, has it? The weight of that statement hung in the air, an acknowledgement of shared loss, a recognition of the silent battles each of us fought. But why now? I pressed, fighting against the undertow of doubt. Why here? He shifted, glancing back toward the hallway before meeting my gaze again, resolute like a lighthouse amid a storm. I heard about her condition through a mutual friend. I couldn't stay away any longer. I needed to see if she was okay. I didn't know if she'd remember me, he admitted, his voice dropping slightly as though divulging a sacred truth. But I hoped she might. Did she tell you about her memories? About what happened? I asked, my heart thudding with urgency. Secrets danced on the edge of my lips, but this felt bigger than me. It was about her, about unlocking who she was beneath this veil of uncertainty. He drew a breath, his expression layered with caution. There are things she may have buried deep, things none of us dared to voice. But Marissa was always strong. She carried the burdens of others, often at the expense of her own well-being. I just hope maybe I can help her remember some of the light she still holds within. Claire stepped forward, her intuition strong as she addressed him. "What's your name?" "Daniel," he replied, offering a faint smile that didn't quite reach his eyes. "Daniel," I repeated, like it was a talisman against the darkness. "What do you need from us?" "I need to know if she can still hear me, if there is any part of her that recognizes the past." His eyes gleamed with a mix of desperation and hope. "If we can garner a reaction, then we can find a way to reach her, guide her back to herself." The words hit me like a wave, so simple, yet so profound. I wanted to believe. Something in the way he spoke reverberated within me, like an echo drawing forth a piece of my mother's essence. "You mean music? Stories? Anything?" He nodded, enthusiasm igniting the dim embers in the room. She might need the familiar voices, the songs that once brought her joy. With a shared glance, Claire and I seemed to communicate a silent agreement, the same flicker of hope igniting between us again. "What do you suggest?" I asked, a comet of anticipation shooting through me. "We could create a space where her memories can surface, the melodies she once loved, or even personal anecdotes about her younger days. Whatever it takes to encourage a connection." His voice resonated with a strength I struggled to match. That I inhaled deeply, trying to absorb the enormity of the task ahead. "I can bring her old records," I said, determination bubbling within me. "Her favorite songs. I'd forgotten how much she used to love to sing along in the kitchen." "Then let us begin," Daniel said, urgency edging his voice. He took a step towards the bed, almost subconsciously drawn to the woman who had once filled with laughter. "If she can respond, it could awaken something in her soul. Trust me, I believe in her strength." A solemn silence settled around us, a fragile truce that seemingly held. Our hearts suspended, urging us to leap into the unknown. The world outside felt like a separate entity, as my mind began to whirl with potential outcomes. What if she responded? What if, and the thought slid home with a thud, what if she didn't? As if sensing my trepidation, Claire's hand nudged mine gently, grounding me. "You heard what he said. She is still here, and it's time for us to fight. Not just for her, but for all that she represents. For us, she encouraged softly, igniting a flicker of resolve inside me as we began to gather around my mother's bed, the quiet hum of a legacy poised on the very edge of remembrance. My heart raced with renewed energy. I took Daniel's outstretched hand, sensing the weight of this shared mission binding us together even more deeply than before. "Let us do this," I whispered, an invincible courage igniting within me, eager to give my mother a chance to unearth the shadows that had clouded her spirit for far too long. Then, just as I turned to face her, ready to embrace whatever revelations were set to emerge, the room plunged into a sudden stillness as my mother's eyes fluttered. The rise of my heartbeat pulsed in my ears, the world narrowing down to just her. Her gaze locked onto mine, a certain glimmer lingering there that sparked a flicker of recognition amid the ambiguity of her state. And just as quickly as it had come, the moment shattered. She closed her eyes again, retreating to silence, leaving me breathless with raw uncertainty and anticipation. Had I seen a moment of recognition or merely a reflection of hope in transient shadows? I could hardly breathe, caught between the realms of dreams and harsh reality, a cliff of possibilities teetering before me, teeming with anxieties I could barely grasp. Then, the unexpected hit like a bolt of lightning when the door swung open yet again, revealing an urgent figure, a woman with a determined expression that made my breath catch. She stepped forward, calling out my mother's name, and my heart sank at the familiar tone, a shadow from the past, threatening the fragile threads of our newfound hope. "Marissa, can you hear me?" The voice few could mistake, yet it sent tremors coursing through me, unraveling the fragile strength I had built up around my mother's bed. There, framed in the doorway, stood a figure from a distant past. It was Valerie, my mother's oldest friend, the one I had only seen in faded photographs, the one who had vanished from our lives when everything fell apart. As she stepped inside, the atmosphere electrified, pulling back the curtain on old memories, both cherished and overshadowed. Valerie's eyes searched the room, honing in on my mother, as though she were a moth drawn to the flicker of a flame. "Marissa, oh my God," she gasped, rushing forward to her bedside. "I didn't think I would ever have the chance to see you again. Who is she?" My voice was breathless, a whisper barely escaping my lips as I absorbed the situation, tension rolling through the room like an unexpected wave. Claire stepped close, concern flashing in her eyes. "Someone from Mom's past," I breathed, my heart pounding in every corner. This wasn't just another person crashing into our lives at a critical moment. This was someone who had shared a piece of my mother's heart, a fragment of the life that existed before my mother retreated into silence. "Marissa, please remember me," Valerie cried, kneeling beside her, fervent hope desperately woven into her tone. "It's Valerie. Think of the summers we spent together. Do you remember us swimming in Willow Lake? Or that red convertible we drove up the coast?" With each word, I felt the very fabric of the room shift. Memories cascaded like melting ice, seeking out newly thawed spaces. The corners of my mother's mouth flickered, just a whisper of a smile creeping in, as if somewhere inside, a small part of her awakened to the presence of a familiar voice. "Can you see me?" Valerie continued, voice raw, eyes shimmering with all the love and loss they had shared. "I am here for you, Marissa. We're together again." Time held its breath as I studied my mother's face. The beeping of machines began to settle into a gentle lull, matching the heartbeat of a long-lost connection reawakening. The shadows of uncertainty held off for a moment, as the light broke through. And then, something shifted anew. My mother's fingertips twitched against the sheets, as if reaching out, urging us all to hold on to that flicker of hope. "Mom," I whispered, stepping closer, carrying every ounce of emotion I had felt journeying through this storm towards something reminiscent of love, toward forgiveness woven heavy in the air, as if it were a patchwork quilt that could shield us all from the vulnerabilities of life. "Can you hear us?" But before she could respond, I caught the glimmer of recognition in her eyes, the light flickering like the flame of a candle on the verge of being drowned in the depth of darkness. "Val?" My mother's voice was hoarse, as if it had traveled through a tunnel of echoes, yet the sincerity shone brighter than I had ever seen it. Suddenly, the warmth of that moment swelled in the room like the first wave of spring, a rebirth, a reclamation. The realization echoed through the air. The true power of connection lay in the ability to change the course of our lives, to awaken forgotten love even against the weight of suffering. But then, dancing along the fringes of my thoughts, a new surge gripped me. My gaze flickered to Daniel, who stood spellbound in the doorway, carrying with him the remnants of my mother's untold story. Perhaps in this gathering, we were meant to heal not just her, but our own fractured paths through shared warmth and vulnerability. Mom, I encouraged, stepping closer to her side as the others remained transfixed. We're all here now. You've brought us together. Valerie nodded, her eyes shimmering with tears. Let us remind you of all the laughter, the joy, the possibilities yet to bloom. Come back to us, dear friend. You taught us so much about love, I added, feeling emotions welling up, solidifying into an unbreakable bond. This is the time to gather everything together, the past, the present. We need you to fight just a little bit harder. And then, as if orchestrated by an unseen force, Mother's fingers finally unfurled, stretching outward, reaching for Valerie as if remembering the magnetism of their youth, soft laughter gently weaving through the air that filled the sterile room. Don't you dare leave me, Marissa. You and I have always been strong. We have each other, always. Something shifted in her expression, more than just the response to the embrace of friendship, but the ripple of a promise, layers of hurt mingling with a security that had been built throughout the years, now just waiting to be reignited. As our fears began to meld away under the shared light of sincerity, I realized we were all standing on the cusp of something monumental. The chaos that had surrounded us ebbed noticeably, a new strength burgeoning and taking root, weaving through every connection, binding us tightly. Valerie leaned closer, the warmth of nostalgia spilling into the space. Do you still remember the song? It was our anthem. Remember how we used to sing it? And just like that, I felt the melody rise up again, flowing effortlessly among us like the tide, one that wrapped around my heart in vibrant grace. Yes, I exclaimed, my heart beating wildly. Let us sing it for her. She'll remember. The melody blended effortlessly with the energies swirling around us, the lingering hope and the unfolding truths threatening to turn into a beautiful harmony. As one, we began to sing, letting the notes soar high, hoping to break through the layers of despair. The feel-good reminiscence intertwined with every breath, and I felt my mother's eyes flutter once more, as if the very rhythm of the music was electrifying her spirit. And then, just as I held my breath, I saw the spark. My mother opened her eyes wide, taking in the familiar faces around her, her lips parting in an effort to join the song against the tides of uncertainty. In that moment, everything unveiled itself. Hope glimmered, illuminating pathways to shared futures, forgiveness weaving its essence through every note. Beating through our hearts, the final note drifted softly into silence. I realized that life, and especially love, wasn't about perfection or a firm grip on what lay ahead. It was about gathering the fragments during our darkest hours, coming together as a family, overcoming our fears by reaching into the past, knitting together stories of resilience and truth. In that shared space, I knew with every fiber of my being, whatever came next, we would face it together. More than anything, I witnessed the depths of love that could pull us from the edge, renew our spirits, and remind us that we were never truly alone. And in the stillness that followed, with a heart full of acceptance, I whispered the words I longed to say for so long, my declaration spinning threads of connection and a promise towards the future. Whatever happens, we will hold on to each other. Love always finds a way.